Unit 6, Lesson 9, Dealing with Negative Numbers. I can use the idea of doing the same on each side to solve equations that have negative numbers. So we're going to do a lot of hands-on stuff in school, and this is going to be a little bit of a challenge, and it's going to kind of make sense why we've been doing it this way. All right, so which equation doesn't belong? So when I look at them, I automatically see this one. It's the only one that uses subtraction. Now you might decide that you want to talk about multiplication. You could talk about addition. You could talk about how it's the only one that doesn't have a -3. Whatever your reason is, choose one and tell me why. All right, so now we're going to be very specific with our colors, okay? Because now we're solving with integers, or positive and negative whole numbers. Eventually we're going to solve with positive and negative rational numbers, which include fractions and decimals. Okay, so right now my equation says x plus 3 equals 4. Great. Initially, we would have gone like this. But I have 2 more blocks on my side, and I don't have anything else to take off. I'm at 0. So I have to come up with a different way. So another way to create a 0 pair is to add negatives, correct? So yellow represents my negative. So to 0 these out, I'm going to add 6 negative 1s. Now if I add 6 negative 1s to one side of my hanger, to keep it balanced, I have to add 6 negative 1s to the other side. All right, so I know that I've created my 0 pairs, or zeroing it out. So a negative and a positive with the same value is a 0 pair. So I'm canceling or crossing all those out. So I'm left with x equals -2. So now I'm going to solve it traditionally. So x plus 6 equals 4. So I have to 0 out first. So 6 minus 6 equals 0. And then I have 4 minus 6, or 4 plus a -6. I remember from our integer rules that when the signs are different, you subtract. So 6 minus 4 is 2. And you take the sign of the number with the larger absolute value. So -2. All right, next one. So I have x minus -4. So I'm going to rewrite this as an addition problem. So x, and I'm adding the opposite. So x plus the opposite of -4 is +4, equals -6. So if you look, that is the hanger diagram that I created over here. Okay, so now I'm going to create my 0 pairs. So I'm going to have a -1. I have to add 4 -1s to each side. Okay, to create my 0 pairs, because I can't just cross them out like I did before. That's not going to work. All right, now I'm going to cross out all my 0 pairs. So a -1 and a +1. There are no 0 pairs on the right side. They're all yellow. I don't have any reds to cross out. So I'm left with x equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So x equals -10. I'm going to solve the equation over here. So x plus 4 equals -6. So I'm going to use my 0 out strategy. X equals, and this says -6 plus a -4. Okay, signs are the same, you add, and you take the sign of both numbers, which is negative. X equals negative 10. All right, same thing again. I'm going to rewrite it as an addition equation. So I have x plus, and then instead of a negative 6, we have a positive 6. And that's equal to negative 2. So that's what's drawn in your hanger diagram right here. Okay, so now I'm going to zero out. So I'm adding 6 negatives to my left side. So that means I have to add 6 negatives to my right side. So now I'm going to zero out. So a red and a yellow make a 0 pair. A negative 1 and a positive 1 make a 0 pair. So I'm left with, because I don't have any 0 pairs on the right side, so I'm left with x equals a negative 8. I'm going to solve it traditionally over here. So I have x plus 6 equals a negative 2. I'm going to zero out on each side. So x equals negative 2 plus a negative 6. Signs are the same, so I add. I get 8, and it's going to be a negative 8. Take the sign of both numbers. All right, so now I'm adding a new step to this. So I have 2 x's instead of just 1. So the first thing I have to do is zero out. So I have to actually add positive 1s. All right, so I'm going to add 3 positive 1s to this side. So now I'm going to use my 0 pairs. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then I actually this time have 0 pairs on this side. So this is 23 yellow squares or whatever. So my signs are different, so I have to subtract. So I'm left with a negative 20. Okay, because the 3 positives, when the signs are different, you subtract and take the sign of the larger absolute value. So now I have to split these 2 x's into 2 groups. So each x is going to equal negative 10. So now I'm going to solve it traditionally. So I have 2x plus a negative 3 is equal to negative 23. So to zero out, instead of a negative 3, I want a positive 3. Because I'm trying to create that 0 pair. So I'm left with 2x equals, signs are different, you subtract, so a negative 23 plus a positive 3 is going to give me a negative 20. Then I'm going to split it into 2 equal groups. 2 divided by 2 leaves me with 1. And negative 20 divided by 2, so a negative divided by a positive, signs are different, so my answer is going to be negative. 20 divided by 2 is 10. All right, so now I don't have any blocks. All I have are chips. So I'm splitting this up into 4 equal groups. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 28, and it's negative, and I'm dividing by a positive 4. Well, that's pretty straightforward. Signs are different. My sign's going to be negative. 28 divided by 4 is 7. So each one of these is negative 7. All right, so now I'm going to solve it traditionally over here. So I have 4x equals negative 28. There's nothing to zero out, so I'm going to find for 1. So I'm going to divide by 4 on each side. And I'm left with x equals 28 divided by 4 is 7. Signs are different. My answer is going to be a negative 7. Alrighty, so for this one, we are going to have to zero out first. So that's a -1, -1, -1. So that means I have to add 4 negatives. So I'm going to X out my 0 pairs. So that means anywhere I have a red and a yellow, I can cross them out. So that's 1, 2, 3. So now I have negative x is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13, negative 13. Now, I don't know what it is for 1x. I know what it is for negative 1x. So I want you to imagine that the coefficient, or the number in front of the variable, is a 1, because that's what it is. I have to remove that 1, so I'm going to divide by a negative so that I'm left with a positive x, because when the signs are the same, the answer is positive. So a negative divided by a negative leaves me with a positive x, and I'm left with 13. If I substitute in here a 13 for x, I have negative 13 over here, and I have a negative 13x. So it works. So now I'm going to solve it on this side traditionally. So I have negative x plus 4 equals negative 9. I'm going to subtract 4 on each side. See, it even happens to the teachers. Okay. So I've got negative, I gotta turn back on my drawing tool. So I've got negative x plus 4 equals negative 9. So I'm zeroing out. So I'm left with negative x equals, and this says 9 plus a negative 9 plus a negative 4. So signs are the same, you add, and you take the sign of both numbers. Now, I want to find for just 1x, not a negative x, just an x. So I'm going to divide by negative 1, because a negative divided by a negative is going to leave me with a positive x. Negative 13 divided by negative 1 is going to leave me with a positive 13. Let's check this. If I substitute a 13 in here and I have a negative plus a 4, is that going to leave me with negative 9? Negative 13 plus 4, signs are different. Subtract and take the sign of the larger absolute value. 13 minus 4 is 9. Negative 13 has a larger absolute value. If I left this as negative 13, it would be negative 13, which would be a positive 13. Alrighty, next one. So I have to zero out. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So then on the other side, I have to put 7 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so now I'm going to zero out. So that's 1. That clears all these, right? Because a negative 1 and a positive 1 make 0. I can also clear 1 on that side. So now I'm left with negative 3x is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's equal to negative 6. So I'm going to split this into 3 groups. Now, what value has to be for each one? So I already have a negative x. So that would mean 2 is going to be my value for each one, because they're each equal to negative 2. And the negative sign is already right here on the chip. Okay, so I'm going to divide by a negative 3 on each side So I can figure out what it is for just one x, and I'm left with a positive 2. So now I'm going to solve it traditionally. Negative 3x plus 7 is equal to 1. So I'm going to subtract 7 or add a negative 7, 0 out, and I'm left with negative 3x equals, and this says 1 plus a negative 7. Signs are different. You subtract and take the sign of the larger absolute value. So you're left with negative 6. I want to find for just one x, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. When the signs are the same, the answer is positive. Negative 6 divided by negative 3 is going to give me a positive 2. All right, last one we're going to do together, and then you're going to have at it yourself. Okay, now this one's kind of nice because oh, wait, this diagram isn't drawn correctly, is it? These should all be yellow negative ones. Because it says x minus 2, which says 2 times x plus a negative 2. All right, so these are yellow. Well, that doesn't make it any easier, does it? So now I have to add reds to counteract. So that's 1. So I added 4 reds, so I'm going to add 4 reds over here. Now I'm going to 0 out. So a yellow and a red make a 0 pair, and I'm left with 2x equals 14. So I have to split these two x's up into 14, so each x is equal to 7. Let's check and see if it works over here. So I have 2 parentheses x minus 2 equals 10. So 2 times x is 2x. 2 times minus 2 would be minus 4 equals 10. Now, if I have a minus 4, the opposite would be to add 4. A negative 4 and a positive 4 make a 0 pair. So I'm left with 2x equals 14. I want to find for just one x, so I'm going to divide by 2 on each side. And that allows me to find for 1, x equals 7. So for here, I need you to solve each one. I need you to solve the diagram, or you can solve traditionally, your choice. And then if you need help, you can see me on Calendly. There's extra practice on Khan Academy. Mr. Morgan has a help video, and there's always a study buddy or a friend. Have a great rest of your day.